evening. Would you stand with me for the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Councilman Rogers.
Let us pray. Our God, our Father in heaven, we thank you for all the gifts you've given to each and every one of us here tonight. We continue to pray for our missing councilman, Mr. Bibby. Be with those that are ministering to them and help them in any way possible. We pray that you'll be with us and guide us tonight as we go about the business of the city. We continue to pray for those serving in the armed forces abroad and serving in harm's way. Be with our veterans, guard them, protect them. These things we pray in Christ's name, and amen.
Amen. Mr. Skogstad, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have two people that have signed up for the public forum this evening. Brenda Powell.
My name is Brenda Powell. Thank you for letting me speak this evening. There has been some discussion a little bit, and I wanted to come forward and ask, in regards to the different departments that, as far as bidding goes out and things of that sort, and having changes being made to where that now it's $10,000 or below, they don't have to come before and request, have bids or to request anything from council. I just needed to see how many, or how much, I should say, is allotted per calendar year of $10,000 for a department that they can actually purchase things.
The budget process does not work that way. In your budget, when you submit it at the beginning of the year, what you do is you put items in the budget that you need to operate your department for the next full fiscal year. And so if you put in there that you need a police cruiser, for example, that money is estimated by our finance department at, let's say, $30,000. Then when it's time for the chief to replace his cruiser, it goes out to bid at that time. Every item that is in your budget is estimated by either the department head or the finance director to estimate what that cost will be. So there is no pot of gold, so to speak, to draw these things from. It's an estimate that you present to the council for your budget for the fiscal year.
Well, I understand that, but I was just, wondering about the amount, if there is a set amount that they're allowed to draw from as far as anything that might be 10,000 or below per department, and that's the question.
Yes, and I answered that. Every line item that you put in there has a dollar amount. For example, if you think you need, $5,000 for building maintenance, changing light bulbs or doing electrical repairs, that's the amount of money that you put in that line item. And that's what you draw from as you get the bids for whatever services you need. So there is no blank. I mean, there is a set figure per line item of what you guess based on your experience that each one of those line items will require.
Well, there was just clarification that was wanted to be made in regards to that, because there was thoughts that there was a possibility that there wasn't any set cap as far as amount, that they could draw so much, $10,000, and they didn't know how much per calendar year if they could do that. The budget seat in the budget, so I thought I would come and ask.
Okay.
Thank you.
Greg Frazier.
Good evening. My name's Greg Frazier. I live at 1210 22nd Street. I just wanted to thank you. Thank you for an excellent Veterans Day program. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The speaker was awesome. The kids at Jackson did a wonderful job. It was just a very entertaining day, and I totally enjoyed it. And I also want to compliment you on the new adult physical training devices you have over in Jackson Park. I went through there today and went through that cycle, and it's pretty challenging. It's you actually have to lift your own weight on some of those, and it's a challenge. But it's very good, and I just want to compliment you on it.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for November the 14th, 2019. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll, that all members of council are present with the exception of Councilman Bibby and Councilman Leach, who is out of town this evening. You should have a copy of the minutes. The minutes from the regular council meeting held on October the 24th, 2019 have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no objections, then the minutes will stand approved as posted. The report of the treasurer this evening, the reconciliation of funds is presented at the first council meeting of the month. By looking at all the numbers that are on here, the city is solvent and all our bills are paid, so we're in excellent shape. We have no unfinished business this evening, so we'll move right into new business. We have an update this evening. Councilman Elam, would you like to introduce our Parks Director so he can give us an update on the parks?
Yes, I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve Black, who's doing a phenomenal job as our Parks Director. And before he starts, as the liaison for the mayor for the Parks and Vienna Rec, I'm just impressed by the energy that you bring, Steve, and also Chuck Knopfsinger, who's the president of the Vienna Rec. You guys are doing a bang-up job with all the stuff you brought the city and exciting things. I know you've got a map and a road plan for more things to come, so I commend you for the job you've done and your crew have done in the parks. So, Mr. Steve Black.
Thank you. Before I begin, I'd also like to introduce Madeline Goff, who is Linda Kern's assistant. Without her, I am technologically challenged, and there would be nothing other than pass-outs this evening. But real quick, I want to touch on something Councilman Elam talked about. Just give you a brief history about me and how things are the way they are. I was finance director for 19 years, left for a different position with the sheriff's office for a year and a half. Opportunity came to come back and assume the position of parks director. Why would the finance guy want to be the parks and recreation director? I enjoy being outside. I work with the former director on a lot of these projects. I played baseball in college. It's in my blood. So for me, it was really an easy fit. I know the guys, and we work well together. So one other thing that I want to mention too, and I hear and read comments from time to time, there is nothing in the parks, recreation, pool, community council that we do just off the cuff. There's a plan for everything. Sometimes there are opportunities to present itself, and if we can afford it, if we can make it work, you all are made aware of it, and then we go forward. But for most of these things, we actually have, and we're going to expand through the park board, an additional 5-year plan. Because I helped Norm when I was here before, and we've accomplished a lot of these things. But as Councilman Elam alluded to, there's a lot more things on the horizon. My problem is I need to be patient. I want to get things done. It hasn't been done in the past from time to time, and we just want to make things better. So anyway, with that being said, I've got some notes that I've shared with the department heads, with Vienna Recreation, which is another group that we're trying to bring back to the way it was years ago. There is unfortunately a division that was created a few years ago, but it's going away and coming back together. So with that group and with the park board, which is a functioning body at this point, I've got a lot of support. So I want to start with our recreation sports. Floor hockey for youth and adults mainly began October 14th. We do offer floor hockey for youth, and it's all played up in the rec building. Basketball signups are going on as we speak. Practices will begin in December. Games will start in January. We just concluded our football season. Unfortunately, we didn't have numbers for an A team, which is 5th and 6th graders, but we did have a B and a C team, 3rd and 4th and 1st and 2nd. 3rd and 4th graders unfortunately lost in the semifinals. It was a great game, but our little C team, and we hope to bring them to the next council meeting for recognition, flag football won the championship. In addition, we had 18 girls on the cheer squad, which that also fell on hard times the last couple years. So we're coming back. Next area, McDonough Park. We continue to work on the trails. It's an area, if you haven't been through McDonough, there's just so much going on up there. We're making the trails wider the way they used to be. You know, it's just, I can make excuses, but I won't. We're just going to make it that much better. Up at Shelter A, which is when you go into the park over to the left, we now have a paved walkway from the track to the shelter. Going through pea gravel and crutches, a walker, wheelchairs, it just didn't work. So we improved that as well. We have a new trail connecting McDonough Park with Lake Betsy. And I would ask how many people actually know where Lake Betsy is? A lot of people do not. If you're not familiar, Twin Lakes Road and Rosemar, as you start up Twin Lakes Road, it's on the left-hand side. And you see the planter at the bottom right-hand, Lake Betsy with the logos. Actually, when I started this job, I didn't even know that planter was there. It was so overgrown, it was in disrepair, it was horrible. So my guys have taken a lot of pride in what they do. And the walking track itself, Craig included the paving last year for it's a 1/3 of a mile walking track if you haven't been up there. Unfortunately, within the last couple months, we noticed there were more cracks than there should have been. It's part of the ground shifting. That was the issue. So I contacted a local contractor. Make a long story short, it's a sand-based filler, and then they resurfaced and sealed twice. So this thing is good to go for a good period of time. We backfilled a lot of dirt, so now when it does rain, if there are issues, it flows right over the track instead of underneath it. Next area, the playground area in Jackson Park. As you just mentioned, this is the adult playground. We started, this was a brainchild of Linda Kern a 1.5 years ago. There were several grants that made this responsible, as well as the city's contribution for the concrete. It's up and running, it looks good, and we'll have a formal dedication, and here's a lot of the individual pieces, probably sometime this spring when the weather is more conducive. We added 5 playground pieces. If you had been familiar with the playground in the past, it looked more like a 3-ring circus. We had the borders, we had mulch, and we have to cut it and we have to maintain it. So it was a little bit of a hassle. So we opened it up, one giant circle, 400 cubic yards of mulch, and these are some of the new playground pieces. And the response from the general public has been really overwhelming at this point. We also, as you're going up the hill toward the pool, there's a monument where the flags are located. We repainted that and put a new sign with the park's logo. And actually, if you remember, before we did this work, if you ever went over to Jackson Park, it was like a duck pond after a heavy rain. We brought 24 truckloads of dirt in, graded it, grass seed, straw. So right now it doesn't look awesome, but this spring we're going to have grass. Park shelters, we are replacing the Baptist shelter, which is the closest one to the dog park. It's it's worn out. Unfortunately, we had some issues, safety reasons. Council was good enough to keep that in the budget, and tomorrow we actually pour concrete. So we're beginning the process with that. And we'll continue to replace picnic tables, 20-foot picnic tables. We had them in that shelter. We're just gonna move them up, and we'll build new picnic tables for the Baptist shelter. So everything will be good to go come spring. Ball fields, kind of a problem area, unfortunately. We have done a lot of work down there. There are new scoreboards. We have the bleachers are, every single one is on a concrete pad to help when there's heavy rains. Public Works helped us install drainage by Field 2, which is the lowest spot on the utility road, which Craig also included that in his paving project, so it's been repaved. Our problem is drainage. I've explored some options. Drainage for one field could be as much as $54,000. People say, well, if you're gonna do that, then why don't you just turf the whole field? $1.5 million. So I don't know what we're gonna do. I've kind of found out through the grapevine, there's a big project going on. There's some great fill dirt that could be available. Plus there's a hillside behind my trailer, my office trailer. And we just may fill in Field 2 and hope for the best, because I can't continue with the floods. The last heavy rainstorm we had almost 6 inches of rain, water standing, flowing through the fields, and it was even higher in some of the other areas. It was up to the road. So it's an area of concern. Spencer Park, we put in new basketball hoops and poles. And I tell people, I watch kids the first couple of weeks with this. I'm thinking they're having a hard time. Well, right. The other baskets were like this. Now they're real baskets, and these kids are just loving it. So I've talked to Craig as well, possibly the next paving project. Maybe we can do something with the basketball court, paint some lines on it, and go that route with it. But it's so much better. Next area, and this was brought up this past year, the swimming pool. We've met twice with the architect with Pickering Associates to come up with some plans. Council would like a baby pool and possibly a splash pad. Well, we're looking at a few other things to try to engineer this to make everybody happy. But in addition, we need a new pump house. We'll need new restrooms, concession stand, office area. I have no idea what the price tag will be, but as we move further along, I'll bring it back to you folks. The pool's been winterized, so we're good to go. It's not just a family fun thing during the days, which, especially hot days, it is really a good thing. But there's so much going on the weekends. The Aqua Zumba. There's 2 classes on Saturdays. Combined totals about 120 people. There's exercise, water aerobic classes during the week. Average attendance is anywhere from 30 to 50. So a lot of people are using this. So again, I'll bring this back in the near future. Next up at the tennis courts. The McDonough Foundation had contacted the mayor and offered up a little bit of money if we would consider turning a tennis court into pickleball. Well, back in the day, and I won't bore you with these details, I saw it down in Hilton Head, thought it was probably a really ridiculous game, had knee replacement surgery. All of a sudden, tennis was not my option, pickleball was. Bottom line, with that grant, members of council, and a little bit of money from my parks budget, we converted 2 tennis courts into 4 pickleball courts. People can still play tennis on it. It's what they call non-intrusive lines. Now that's a before picture, but the net will stay up and the pickleball courts will run north to south the same direction as the tennis courts. And there is an outcry for this sport. There is a pickleball court up in the senior center that is busy all the time. Whenever there's available times, it's busy. And, you know, this particular situation, now that we're done, everything's good to go, now the weather turns cold. So come spring, I'm really looking for some big things. In addition, if you ever went up to the tennis courts, you can see in this picture over to the left, it's like a black, it's mold, fungus, stuff that doesn't come off with bleach. I mean, you'll ruin court paint, and I was schooled on that. There's certain machines, certain chemicals, certain cleaning agents that are needed to clean tennis courts. The same folks, and we were lucky, John Barr, the local pro up at Greenmont, found these folks for us. They came in and cleaned the tennis courts. Basically, by doing what we did, we just bought 2 years of life for these courts, so we don't have to look at resurfacing next year. There are some cracks, but not enough that it interferes with anything. Parkersburg Catholic plays their home matches there. Jackson Middle School plays their home matches. Pickleball will also be offered day and evening, so it'll be a good thing. Also under the lights. There's nothing like that around here. We're just lucky the courts are lit. Next, something that you're asking, well, why is he talking about events? Well, how many events are there? 26. Okay. I should know that because we're involved. Where are these things except for the Gold Star Veterans Day ceremony? In the parks somewhere. So my guys take an active interest. They are totally involved with these things. But I just wanted to mention the last couple. The Holidays pageant took place at the Senior Center on November 2nd. You can see up here, there were 57 contestants. It was really an awesome thing all day long. So if you ever have the opportunity, because again, I'm one of these people like, really? We'll set it up, but do we have to be there? It's impressive. It really is. The Veterans Day ceremony took place Monday, as you alluded, and the tree lighting ceremony over in Jackson Park will be Tuesday, December 3rd, and the parade will be Saturday, December 7th. Now, a couple other things that I also want to mention. The walking trail from Jackson Middle School to the rec building also repaved. And in addition, a young man had come to the park board, Julian Powell, last year and talked about disc golf. Okay, my idea and what it really is are two different things. Something about throwing a Frisbee into a briar patch doesn't get me real excited. But fortunately, Madeline has done some really great things. Teresa puts it on our Facebook pages, and I don't even remember how many positive comments. So many people know what pickleball is. Now, I've had phone calls about the deer feeders or the animal traps. That is a disc golf basket. Right now, there's 9, and it's throughout the woods, off that track. And these guys are experts in what they do, and they said this is going to be one of the first class disc golf courses in the state of West Virginia. So it's volunteers that basically came to me and said, do you care if we do it? Mom didn't raise an idiot. Yeah, it's free. Have at it. We provide the parts. They do all the work. By the end of November, and they've already hit part of it. They have it 9 holes in, actually 2 different looks. They have tee boxes for beginners, then maybe over here, tee box for intermediate. Same hole, different looks. So there's really 18 holes now, but when they're done, there will be 18 holes, actually 36 different looks. If you don't know anything about disc golf, look it up on the internet. I'm surprised. They're discs, so not Frisbees. We did new foam coat roofing on the park's garage, the rec building, and the senior center. These roofs have a warranty for 10 years. So we started having a little bit of leakage at each one. So we're good to go for at least 10 years. And at this point in time, you may have seen, well, first of all, the angels are up. That's Public Works has been doing that. And all the rest of the lights throughout the parks, both sides, the ball field area coming through Jackson Park, the senior center, Spencer. It'll be Big Tree down at Neal. That's all us. that is something that it was stagnant for years. So we actually developed a 5-year plan with it as well. A couple years ago, ran into a little bump, but we overcame it. Unfortunately, this year, another little bump, but we're persevering, and the weather was great until this week. But the good news is the weather's going to be great next week. We put the trees up, so everything will be good. So if you haven't ever seen this, you need to. Actually, one Christmas Eve, I get panicky. I want these lights to work because this isn't Obey, this isn't Parkersburg. I'm not in competition, but I want them to look their best. So we'll drive around almost every night, making sure everything is good to go. And I was shocked, Christmas Eve, the amount of traffic coming through. Families, it's a destination location. There's not a lot going on Christmas Eve after church. And Parkersburg had some issues, and there were a lot of people at our park. And we're hoping for even more this year. With that being said, that's basically everything going on in the park right now. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I just want to make a comment, Steve. You know, as you review the park, I think that because we haven't really done a lot of improvements on these two items, but I do think the dog parks are significant in addition to the basketball facility that we have for the, players to use over there. So, and I know you maintain both of those daily. So
at any time, every morning, there was a lady until we tore the shelter down. Every morning would come read her newspaper, have some coffee with her dog at the Baptist shelter, then head over to the park. We're getting to work. We're getting over to the parks between 6:30 and 6:45, and there's people using it. It's on the muddy, nasty, rainy days. We see the people in their work clothes, business people, coats, ties, women in dresses, dragging these dogs out, let them run in the mud, then they get them back in the car. God help them, but they do. And at any time you can drive by there, it's not just West Virginia license plates. There's Ohio plates. There's people, and I'm not exaggerating, probably 3 or 4 a month doesn't sound like a lot, but I get phone calls from people out of town. Where are these dog parks? We need to do these things. And there are events at the dog park. Unfortunately, Trick or Treat was rained out. That part us because we were filling in, so we had a lot of dirt and mud and all that good stuff. But yeah, you're right, Mayor. The big dog park, another plan is to put concrete in the entranceway because it is hard. We put gravel in there, but it still gets a little muddy. The concrete will help tremendously. So that's on the near horizon, probably this spring.
one other thing that I want to bring to council's attention is Steve made reference to the 5-year plan. We just completed our 10-year plan, and so we need to revisit that and talk about where we're going to go for the next 5 years and down the road for 10 and possibly 20 years. There are several things that Steve mentioned, like if you would consider the AstroTurf fields, they're very expensive. And, you know, those are things that we need to plan for if it's something that would be done to improve the parks. Another thing that we've talked about extensively is the community building. That community building is used almost every day of the week, isn't it, Steve?
Every weekend and at least on a slow period, at least 2 other nights, sometimes 3. As we get closer to the holidays, yeah, it's booked solid through January right now.
You know, a while back I reached out to you all and said, you know, please send in whatever suggestions you have for the 5-year plan so that we can start thinking about these things. Most of the cities that are in the same size as us have done fairly extensive projects. And so those are things that if you plan ahead, you can afford them because you stretch your dollars out. So we need to revisit that. We need to revisit our 5-year plan and our 10-year plan to see where we're going to go. So I want to put that back in your memories because obviously Steve has got some needs that we need to address. You know, and there are other areas in the city that we need to address. So we will be dealing with that, especially when the budget year starts. So we'll be putting that back up again, okay?
Yeah, actually, one other thing I wanted to mention, thanks to Chief he makes sure the guys are always watching our back. They patrol on a regular basis. We have 54 cameras from McDonough over the hill into Spencer Park. Only one gentleman had a very negative response because he said by putting cameras up in the parking lot at McDonough, it's not as private as it used to be. With that being said, I said nothing. So, but anyway, it's safe, it's convenient. We even had an episode where somebody lost a wallet that was turned in intact.
And at your new senior exercise area, you did install another emergency phone, so that area in the park.
It's not up yet.
But I mean, it's
Hopefully
in your
tomorrow it will be.
yes. So that area will be protected also. All right. Steve, thank you very much for your update. No, you got a question, Mike?
No,
Okay. Thank you very much for your update. Okay, Linda. Linda, you will be next in our presentation from our things. Okay. It took Steve 17 minutes to talk about all the park, so you get 17 minutes. Okay. All right. That'll be in our next council meeting, and I'd like you to tell us about the senior center and all the events. All right. 17 minutes. All right.
yeah, 17. Remember at 17.
Before we move on to our last item, well, excuse me, we have 2 more items this evening. I'd like to introduce you to someone that I'd like all council members to get introduced to. Chief, would you tell us who's with you this evening?
With us tonight is one of our newest officers, Officer Derek Pelfrey. He just graduated November 1st from the 179th Basic Class at the State Police Academy after 16 weeks of training. So we're very proud to have him. His dad is a veteran of the Parkersburg Police Department for over 2 decades, so comes from good pedigree. And he scored very well. He scored a 94% in his class, which is an A average and superior. So introducing Officer Derek Pelfrey. On top of that, he's a certified EMT, and he makes a real nice addition to our police department. It's very hard to hire police officers today, as everybody knows. It's a long process, and we've been probably not around 16 weeks. He's at the academy, but when you have family, it's a hard thing, and it's a big commitment. So that's just to get trained. So he's a little green behind the ears, but he's quickly going to assimilate into a great police officer right now. So thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Kathy Stoltz. Is it true that you've never been to a graduation?
I've been to one.
You've been to one. On December the 13th, we're going to go down again for our new female officer. If you would like to ride down for that, I would be glad to take you with me.
I'm writing it on my calendar right now.
All right? December 13th is right, Mike?
13th, it'll be at 10 o'clock.
So we leave at 8 and it'll be fine. Beautiful ceremony. It's really, really great to watch you come in, Derek. It was fun. I love that. So, yep. All right. So, item number 2 on our agenda this evening is an ordinance on first reading amending Article 907.04. It's for the Tree and Beautification Committee. And basically what this article does is it raises the number of members from 8 to 11. There are actually 11 people that want to serve on that board. And as far as I'm concerned, if the more they get, the better it is, because it's a great volunteer group. And so this is an ordinance amending 90704, the creation of the Tree and Beautification Committee, changing the number of members and requirements to be a member of the Vienna Tree and Beautification Commission, and adding attendance requirements. Be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that 907.04 is hereby amended to read as follows. There is hereby created and established a Vienna Tree and Beautification Commission for the City of Vienna, which shall consist of not more than 11 members. All members shall be residents of the City of Vienna. 1 member shall be the mayor and or his designee. 1 member shall be the city forester. In the event that the city does not have a city forester, this position may be filled by a resident of the City of Vienna. Item number 2 is the attendance in the event that a member of the commission fails to attend 3 consecutive regular commission meetings, with the exception of the mayor or his designee, or the Vienna council representative or his designee, or the city forester, said commissioner may, upon vote of the remaining commissioners, be removed from the commission and relieved from his or her duties. Upon removal, the mayor shall, in accordance with 90705 of the Vienna Municipal Ordinances, shall appoint a new member to fill the remaining term. I'll entertain a motion for the approval on first reading of the ordinance for 90704.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve on first reading the ordinance amending 90704. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor on first reading of the ordinance amending 90704, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We have one more item on our agenda this evening, and that's the discussion of the streetscape project. Before we do that, I would like to ask council if we could go into executive session for just a brief moment. We have a legal matter that we need to discuss, and it shouldn't take very long at all, and then we'll be right back. So I'd like to entertain a motion for an executive session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we go into executive session to discuss a legal matter. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, let the record reflect we went into executive session at 8:38. 7:30. I'm on daylight savings time, sorry. Let the record reflect we came back into regular session at 7:44. The last item on our agenda this evening is a discussion.
Let's just put on the record,
Oh.
no decisions were made, no actions.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's your job. The last item on our agenda this evening is a discussion on the streetscape project. I received a letter from the state and from Burgess and Nyepel that they have now completed their final design work on the streetscape project. We had a meeting a couple months ago with the landowners that own property along Grand Central Avenue. And so I invited 4 of them to come this evening and talk about the concerns and their thoughts about the streetscape project. So, John, if you would like to, this is John Meyer. He owns several pieces of property on Grand Central. If you'd come up to the podium and tell us about your feelings about the project as you've seen it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm John Meyer. I own property in the 2800 block from Grand Central and the 2900 block. So where the bodega and Edward Jones parking lot, in the block where Hot Diggity and Kim's building is. And the mayor was nice enough to let me meet with himself and Dwayne and Burgess Nyepel, engineer, and review the plans. I just have really 4 issues. I mean, I've seen some of the artist renditions. They're pretty, but they're not gonna really work for myself or my tenants. In the design, they have these bump outs that come at the start and end of each block or section of a block. So in effect, there's one right before the bodega, one right after Edward Jones. So you're taking 2, potentially 3 parking spots, turning it into 1 parking spot, where someone will have to parallel park to get into. Well, Grand Central may be still the busiest road in West Virginia, 1 lane, because of those bump outs, you won't have things. So if somebody's parallel parking there, they're gonna block traffic. I mean, especially if someone is not very good at it, they're really gonna block traffic. We have another bump out, right past the alley, that's where my parking lot next to Edward Jones is. So they'll lose parking going to the dry cleaners building there. At Hot Diggity, up at that block, there's a bump out at the start of that block. So if you're gonna pull in, get a hot dog to go, you can't do it. If somebody else is parked up there, you will have to parallel park to do that. Well, I've had retail business, and if people, for an event, they may park someplace and walk. For a hot dog or for a cup of coffee, they can't park there, they're not stopping. So you're gonna lose that business. Then so you have the issue of the parking lots, issue of parallel parking because of those bump outs. Thirdly, there's an issue, we don't know what's under some of the sidewalks. And when Hot Diggity building was built, there was a barber shop in the basement. That has been cemented over, so that is part of the sidewalk. So if you take that sidewalk out, you're gonna be standing in the basement of the Hot Diggity building with my gas meter and whatever else is down there. So you're gonna have some serious issues trying to replace those sidewalks. The 4th problem I had was really a legal issue that I did title search back on my properties 90 years. The Department of Highway or Transportation in their drawings says the state has right of way over the sidewalks. Actually, their drawings show their right of way extends into some of the buildings, which is a little odd. But I did title search back 90 years on my property. I could find no granting authority in that time period. I mean, nothing to me that shows the state actually has that right of way. And I went down to their right of way office and showed them what I had, asked them to get back to me on what showed that they actually had that right of way. Now, was it 120 years ago, whatever, and they have never responded to that. So you can take from that what you will. But I think my tenants are uniformly against the bump outs. I mean, replacing the sidewalks is great, obviously it helps me, I don't have to pay for it. So, you know, hey, go ahead, but my tenants don't want the bump outs, I don't want the bump outs, and everyone I've talked to thinks they're a poor idea.
John, thank you. Kim?
I concur with him. I'm in agreement about the bump outs. It doesn't affect me so much as like Cindy with the hot dogs, but I watch this all day long. People just zoom up. They will use their cell phone safely a lot of times, and so that's just going to cause just a lot of problem right there. So if they could do it without the bump outs, that would be great.
In the meetings that we had with all of the business owners on both sides of the road, every one of them voiced concerns about the bump outs for the reasons that John spoke about, the loss of parking spaces, the safety factor with, parallel parking off Grand Central with the amount of traffic that's there. Our public works guys aren't thrilled to death about the bump outs because of the snow plows. Those things just make it incredibly hard to actually move the snow around. And so there are some areas there, and the state typically plows Grand Central Avenue, but those are some of the things that we do on occasion. And so next week I have a meeting with the state. They're bringing their people back, and Burgess and Nyepel is coming back. And I wanted you all, Roger, I know in our initial conversations you were concerned about the cost. Well, we still have no cost estimates because they don't have a plan. All of the drawings that were done have all of those bump outs in them. They're beautiful sidewalks and very nice period lighting. It would really dress that entire area up. But you are going to restrict that flow right there for those blocks of, 28th to 34th Street down. It'll basically be a one-lane road. Very limited parking and only that. So as far as the dollar amounts go, I still don't have those numbers because they just don't exist until the plan, and I've not seen the final plan that Burgess and Nyepel is submitting to the state. But at any rate, I wanted you all to be aware. We've worked on this thing now for, 4 years. Kathy, when did we go to Charleston and get those grants? It's been a long time. And but the fact of the matter is, if we can change it and we get simply new sidewalks and new lighting, I think that probably works best for Grand Central Avenue. Because I listened to what you say, John and Cindy, and Chuck Knopfsinger, and there was probably 10 or 12 people that came to the library that night for the meeting. Everybody that had a piece of property there was there. This is their neighborhoods. This is how they make their livelihood. So we need to at least listen to their opinions and try to see if we can work around that. But at any rate, that's the discussion that I wanted to have with you all tonight. Is there any thoughts or comments that you'd like to make on that, or ask a question of John or Kim? Okay, well, the meeting is next week, and they will be up here, and we will see what they say, and then I'll come back with a report. We still have not paid any money. All of the design work and all of the engineering was paid for by the state, so we're not actually out any money at all. But it is a great opportunity for us to have them come in and do this, if it could be something that we could live with. So anyway, that's my comments for that on this evening. So all right, with that completes our agenda for this evening. Council comments.
Just one comment, Mayor. As you alluded to a little bit ago, we are nearing budget time. I would like to ask if we could put on all of our future agendas until that budget has been completed. Some of the department heads here available to us, so we could hear their ideas and see what their plans are. For example, increasing efficiencies, cutting costs, reducing spending. You know, and if possible, maybe each one of those department heads give us an itemized list of those items and how they would accomplish those things. And I would like to myself personally start by having the HR person here at our next meeting to start the preliminary conversations about benefits, including insurance. I know that's always been a big topic, but I think we need to start looking at that now. And, you know, if there's a way to reduce our cost, you know, what that percentage would be, I don't know. You know, it would be nice if we could reduce our cost instead of that going up. Do we do that with deductibles? Do we do that with out of pocket? Do we do that with employee participation? I don't know, but I think those are just some things that we need to start having some preliminary talks about now before we get to that budget time. And with that being said, also, in addition to having someone from HR here, we all found out last year that we have an insurance committee. I would like, if possible, maybe for that committee to be here in that meeting as well, so that we can all go into this in one accord and reading off the same page. And that's all I have.
I would like to tell you a very good statistic. I do believe that our employees are listening to the concerns that are out there because the insurance is so expensive. We had 100% participation in the blood screenings this year. That helps us with the insurance quotes. And it's the first year that I can remember ever that we had 100% participation. So the employees are trying to do their part. So I'm very grateful for that. So any other council comments?
Just that I would like to have that as an agenda item, you know, on all of our future meetings, to have a department head or heads here to talk to us about their ideas.
Okay. I will talk to the finance director and see how soon she's going to start the budget process, and we will get into it.
Well, Mayor, that's my point. I'd like to have some of these conversations before we get deep into that budget conversation.
I understood what you want.
Okay.
I have no issue with that, Roger. Okay. Any other council comments? Greg, I wanted to thank you for your comments. It was nice to see you there. I have to say that the veterans program that we did this year was absolutely fantastic. You know, having 14 Cub Scouts down there that were mostly first graders and third graders doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and then having the lineup where everybody that was there, it's the largest crowd we've ever had. Some of the people that were in line, and you're a veteran, you were there also. Some of the veterans came up and said, you know, that's the first time in 20 years that anybody's ever said thank you to me. And they really appreciated it. So I think that's a great thing. So anyway, thank you for coming. It's nice to see you there. So our next council meeting will be December the 12th. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. For you hunters that are going out, happy hunting and safe hunting. And we will see you on December the 12th. Meeting adjourned.
I think it's because just the field conditions. I think because I know where they're going, they're taking it to, and we can't compare it to what they have.